Okay, so it's a few minutes past the hour, so I think we'll go ahead and get started now. I want to welcome everyone today and thank you for joining us for Advanced Privileged Identity Management, moving beyond the gateway approach to privileged identity management. My name is Jason Thompson. I'm the Director of Global Marketing at SSH Communication Security, and I'm joined here with Jimmy Mills, who's the Senior Solutions Engineer at SSH Communication Security. He'll be doing a walkthrough of the solution Crypto Auditor, and I'll be providing you with a bit of background as well as setting to the table as to why advanced privileged identity management should be an important component of your overall security architecture and to help you identify threats inside of your environment. So let's go over a little bit about what the company does. We're SSH Communication Security. You probably know us as the inventors of the SSH protocol. We're a listed company traded on the NASDAQ OMX under the symbol SSH1B. We have 3,000 customers, including 6 of the 10 largest banks in the U.S. And worldwide, we have many of the largest banks, financial institutions, retail organizations, and a bunch of other folks out there who use our solutions, in addition to the protocol that we invented that obviously is used worldwide. What we do: secure shell access controls and key management, privileged identity management, data and transit encryption. What we seek to be is the market leader in developing advanced security solutions that help you meet today's business security and compliance requirements in encrypted networks, which has really become a hot topic, especially in the past few months, in the past year at least, with the rise in insider threats as well as external threats that are compromising poorly managed encrypted solutions, encrypted networks to compromise and steal data from organizations. So here's a list of some of our customers. As you can see, as I said before, we span a number of verticals. This is by no means exhaustive. Energy, utilities, government, financial, retail, healthcare. We're also a global organization, so we service organizations throughout APAC, EMEA, and the U.S. So problems we saw, a little bit deeper dive into this, especially beginning in 2011, we saw that the market for secure shell access controls and encrypted channel marketing was just emerging. It's a major compliance and security issue then, and it is even more so now. You know us as the company that invented the protocol, as I said. Beginning in 2011, we went out and began developing access control solution called Universal SSH Key Manager. That's got different components. We aren't covering that in detail today, but I thought I would mention it in this webinar since it's an important component of holistic security approach to secure shell and encrypted channel management. Universal SSH Key Manager enables you to discover existing keys in your environment, so you know who has access to what. This is critical for security as well as compliance. It allows you to lock down the environment so that only the key manager can access the server to deploy, rotate, and remove keys. This makes sure you're continuously in control of your environment. And obviously, you also want to continuously monitor the environment for any new keys created, and Universal SSH Key Manager does that. It also enables you to automatically rotate the keys to reduce the likelihood that a compromised key can be used against you. And this also helps you meet compliance requirements, especially the PCI requirements that are just out in version 3 that requires you to rotate and also control other authentication methods beyond just passwords. Today we're going to be focusing mostly on our privileged identity management solution, Crypto Auditor, as well as the overall secure shell issues with management and control. Our privileged identity management solutions enable you to monitor encrypted traffic to ensure that privileged identities aren't stealing data or violating policy. At the network level, we enable organizations to control what identities can do within authorized servers and prevent workarounds that allow IT administrators to bypass firewalls. And this is actually something that, as the analysts that I talk to on a daily basis, they're saying they're seeing more and more either flagrant violations of privileged insiders bypassing firewalls in this manner, and other policy restrictions. More and more, this could lead to external bad actors or APTs taking advantage of those same types of workarounds or lack of access or lack of control that organizations have. Also, our solution provides audit and forensics capabilities. We store complete history of privileged user activities and traffic in a secure vault. And we enable layered security solutions such as SIEM, DLP, and antivirus to extend those capabilities into your secure shell deployment. So let's set the table a little bit. I'm going to pull some of this research, some selective parts from our recent, or Forrester's recent data-centric white paper, The Rise of IT Automation and the New Security Imperatives. This really touches on the growth of MDM processes and how it's requiring a new approach to security. This is available for free on our website. Just visit ssh.com. It's in the resources section. It's also, you can click on it from one of the main banners. It provides a great amount of resources for folks who are working on projects, who are seeing problems inside the organization, to really show from a data standpoint the risks that are out there, how many organizations are aware of it, and some of the implications of not addressing some of those issues. So one, organizations rely on secure shell for numerous processes. So as most of you on this webinar probably know, your organization relies on SSH for a whole host of things. Sometimes folks are not quite aware of how powerful SSH is or how broadly it's used inside of organizations. As you can see from the survey results, what is your organization using SSH for? A big part of that securing automated transfer of data from one machine to another, administrative access control, remote VPN, secure access to secure machine-to-machine transactions and processes, enabling automated processes to initiate regular backups, data center management, application developer access to test systems, and on and on and on. And how important is that the secure shell to your organization? Well, while 82% of respondents said that their organizations use SSH, 68% consider SSH as an important or critical to their business. So this is really important as we go down the pathway here of the presentation, as we set the table to understand this is considered to be, it's widely used, it's considered to be important. Now let's look and see how it's managed. Next set of data here, a question, what safeguards do you have in place today to prevent unauthorized use of SSH keys? And 57% say we regularly scan and audit our systems to make sure no unauthorized keys have been added. 52% say we implement key usage restrictions. 51% we monitor all secure shell authorizations and connections. 50% we regularly view logs. 50% we delete user keys. 44% all privileged users have to log in through a gateway or jump host. And only 4% don't know. So this gives us a pretty good idea that a lot of organizations are indicating that they don't have something in place, and in many cases we find when they do have something in place, it's only a partial solution. Most organizations are simply not monitoring and logging SSH activities, whether that's the access control component through the creation of keys or through the actual uses of SSH and the in-network traffic that's transacting your environment. Based on our experience, in addition to what Forrester found, most organizations only have visibility into interactive users, and they don't have visibility into machine-to-machine communications. And that's kind of surprising, because if you look at the next slide here, we'll look at what's below the surface. M2M identities are growing rapidly. This means machine-to-machine communications or application-to-application communications. 20% of the identities in the environment are interactive human users. Those are carbon-based life forms like you and me. But 80% of identities in most organizations that we talk to that are using secure shell, those identities are machine-to-machine, and those are living below the surface. Now, there are some challenges with managing in sort of the traditional privileged identity management space, managing interactive users through a gateway solution, and that's kind of the title of the webinar. We're moving ours from the gateway, which only captures interactive users, to the network, which will capture both. Some of the advantages of that, obviously, are going to be that you're going to gain visibility into the vast majority of traffic that's transacting your networks. But if we look at what below the surface means for organizations, it means most don't have or lack sufficient access controls, continuous monitoring, DLP, or forensics capabilities in their environment. In many cases, their end-to-end authentications vastly outnumber the interactive authentications, as we said, and this creates a huge risk because, as we go to the next bullet, these end-to-end connections can be easily hijacked by interactive users, and this oftentimes happens inside of organizations. And this also creates a compliance issue as well because, obviously, if an interactive user can get in there, that needs to be managed because you've got monitoring and security issues that really play heavily into things like PCI, SOCs, etc. Importantly, from the business standpoint, end-to-end connections often carry high-value payloads such as credit card numbers and personally identifiable information. So clearly, if it's an unmanaged system or unmanaged access controls, like you don't have proper key management and you're not monitoring it, and strike three, you're pushing through credit card numbers and other critical business information, then that's a place where a hacker or a malicious insider is going to want to target. And that becomes a big issue. In addition to that, we've already talked about how encrypted communications are rarely monitored because of the challenge of decrypting them, and there's very few solutions out there that do this efficiently. But encryption also blinds security ops and forensics teams. So your SIEM folks or folks sitting in your security operations center may not be aware or be able to detect any type of anomalous activity inside your encrypted channels. What makes this really important to get a hold of now is that with the growth in things like the Internet of Things, with the rise of the data center, becoming more and more in the cloud, we're just seeing a lot more data out there, and a lot of that's being pushed around the organization through end-to-end transactions. So if we Forrester asked the question to respondents, business and operational processes automation drives most of your machine-to-machine transactions. How do you expect your organization's machine-to-machine transactions and process will change in the next 12 months? Most are saying it's going to increase pretty significantly. And that's a trend we're seeing because of just the rise of all kinds of data that's coming in, either from folks using their iPhones to make purchases to now in your home you have smoke detectors and thermostats that communicate into a central database. These are all things that are causing more data to be put into the cloud, be put into different data centers, to be transacted across your networks, and of course, if it's coming in and you're processing it securely and it's not managed, this creates a huge issue for your organization. And most organizations are not scanning or auditing. So what challenges, if any, does your organization encounter with secure shell management? Obviously, human errors in setup and removal, but very specific to our purpose here today, monitoring and controlling of these activities. Only 24% of your organizations are doing that or are encountering this problem, actually. So this is a huge challenge inside of organizations. Visibility is not there, audit controls aren't there, scanning ability is not there. And we look at also the lack of central management control of secure shell inside the organization. Most organizations, even the ones that say, hey, we've got controls in place, we've got monitoring in place, we know what's going on in our secure shell environment. Most are then answering the question, how many full-time employees are responsible for secure shell management? It can be oftentimes, we can see from the results here, spread out amongst multiple people in the organization. So what is this kind of creating? Let's talk about the real problem here. It's creating a content awareness gap. Encrypted M2M and P2M processes can be exploited. Privileged access is the leading vector for insider and APT attacks. We've known this for a long time. In fact, back in 2011, I believe it was, Visa put out an alert saying that encrypted access is the primary method by which organizations are breaking in and stealing credit card data. The content awareness gap also creates a lack of visibility, awareness, and monitoring. So here's just a little example. We'll show you this in real time in the demo. But this is what most organizations are actually experiencing. They're seeing external users in the cloud, BYOD users, external third-party contractors, even internal employees' workstation networks machine-to-machine traffic on this side. And what do the layered defenses see? What does the content awareness gap create? Well, they're seeing just this sort of gobbledygook of encrypted data as it crosses their network. So they're not able to monitor it. They're not able to take action on it. With Crypto Auditor, what we're able to do is actually see what's really happening. So here you can actually see the transaction. You can see that in this case, someone's pushing through Amex and Visa credit card numbers through the network. Now, based upon policy rules, with Crypto Auditor, you could actually control that. Without it, you're just going to have this content awareness gap. And you think, well, has anything happened to make us take action? So this SSH has been around for a long time. Secure Shell is widely used. The footprint is quite large. Why would we take action now after 10 years of operating like this? Well, one is because we're now seeing people starting to target Secure Shell and encryption because they know that it's been poorly managed and it's lived at the plumbing layer of an organization and it's outside the scope of many projects. So it's really the weak point. That's why we're seeing in February 2014, Corretto, I'm sure you heard about this, also known as the MAST, it actually targeted SSH keys as one of the many things that it was going after. It's been active for 7 years. It's directed toward government agencies and embassies, diplomatic offices, and energy companies. Again, in November 2013, Focator, semantic researchers discovered this one, designed to steal login credentials from secure shell connections. So these are two external threat vectors. Why were these advanced persistent threats designed to go after SSH keys? Well, because they knew that if they gained access to the network, they could get into critical information assets, they could steal that information, and they can exfiltrate that data without you ever knowing because they're going to blind you with your own encryption. That's one of the things that Crypto Auditor stops and enables you to actually proactively look at that network traffic and determine based upon policy and your layered defenses if that should go through. In addition to the external threat vector or the advanced persistent threat, you're also looking at insider threats. And wherever you fall in the politics of it, I don't think anyone would say that they would want an Edward Snowden-like attack to occur inside their organization if they were in charge of security. That would be quite bad. And we know from public statements, and we're not sure exactly the full extent of this, although some people have made some guesses based upon his role and what was used inside these organizations for encryption and access control for the privileged admins. We do know it was a fabricated encryption key, at least according to NSA Director Keith Alexander. And we know from that that he was able to gain access and exfiltrate this data. In addition, there was an April 2013 insider attack where a former HostGator employee used an SSH key to gain unfettered access to 2,700 servers. The access control issue is one piece, but also the fact that had he been able to deploy that key, access the systems, actually perpetrate the exploit or the attack, he probably would have been able to get that information out of the organization without anyone being able to trace it. These are just a few examples. There's many more examples that we talk about with customers where their lack of access controls have created risk points for them. Analysts hear about this all the time. We talk to the major analysts at IEC, Gartner, and Forrester. They regularly get calls about how poor access controls in their encrypted network and also the lack of visibility and the ability to monitor the network is creating a challenge for the organization. So there is awareness around this, and the market is beginning to, both from a compliance standpoint and security, is beginning to adopt these measures. From our Forrester report, there's basically 3 best practices, and you can read more in detail about these, but basically encrypt, meaning kill your data to augment security. You need to encrypt everything. That means that encryption protocols like SSH and SFTP, those are more important than ever, but they also need to be managed. Remember to treat your M2M identities like human user identities. That's really a critical component of making sure that you've got secure encrypted networks and that you're following best practices. And also centralize your SSH management as much as possible, as opposed to letting hundreds or thousands of people deploy keys and then access systems in an unmonitored fashion. You should handle that like you would anything else. You want to centrally control that. You want to have central monitoring of your entire environment, not just a large component of it. So let's look a little bit at conventional versus advanced privileged identity management. So Conventional are things that have been out there for quite some time. These are solutions that are designed to really identify privileged human users, and then either through like password sharing vaults or some other methodology giving them access through a gateway. Most of these, though, aren't really content aware. Sometimes they have some content aware capabilities. Sometimes those are quite kludgy, which you might imagine with a sort of last generation or previous generation architecture approach. They don't provide much by way of basic, recording. It's just basic, limited search capabilities, so it's harder to do forensics on that. And they're primarily set up as a gateway or jump host, so that basically misses the 80% of identities that are transacting in your environment every day and moving critical data assets around. So that's clearly not a good thing for the rise of M-to-M communications, the cloud for the data center. They also can't apply policy and they provide little to no access controls, and typically they're deployed inside the perimeter. Of course, employing that just inside the perimeter can put some restrictions on external third parties and how they can actually access these solutions and log in. Advanced PIM includes monitoring of 100% of network traffic, human or machine, content awareness, and they provide context as to what the user is doing. This gives you the ability to know, hey, if this identity is logged in at 3 a.m. on a Saturday night, this might be some anomalous activity, and definitely if they're trying to send information out to an IP address in, say, China. Proactive data loss prevention. This is the big one. So most conventional PIM solutions, they're not going to give you the ability to integrate with DLP, IDS, and SIEM solutions to stop attackers in their tracks. What they're basically going to do is give you a, oh wait, you've been hacked. This is the passive approach. Wait until you're breached, and we'll tell you after you've hunted for a while what you've got on your hands here. In our case, we're looking at this from the advanced privileged data management space and really creating that space. We want to integrate with your layered defenses to stop attackers. We want to hold that connection in place, and then we want to be able to analyze that and allow that connection to only move across once it's been approved based upon policy. We also want to give you advanced search capabilities, video replay, and this will enable you to have fast and easy forensics. It can also help you apply policies with a centrally controlled role-based access controls solution. And we can be deployed, or advanced privileged identity management solutions can be deployed as a gateway or as an inline appliance. If you want to think of it like this, it's an SSH firewall, and we're also implementing SSL support as well for our solution, but advanced privileged identity management solutions should be able to provide or stop privileged identities from creating workarounds and also deny subchannels. And they can be deployed inside the perimeter or in tandem with the firewall as a perimeter security solution, since most organizations right now just allow secure shell to just flow freely into the organization without really being able to apply policy to it at all. So success proves need. We've had a lot of success over the past year and a half since we've launched the product. Recently, a top 10 global technology company selected CryptoAuditor. They selected the solution in order to prevent unauthorized transfer of high-value intellectual property up into the into the cloud or outside of their organization on purpose or by accident. So they're able to now inspect that traffic and shut that down before that ever gets out. A major European security depository organization selected CryptoAuditor to monitor and control external application developers and administrators working in their data centers. A traditional solution or conventional solution wouldn't really work because they would all have to go log in to a gateway, and this was an external party in a foreign country. For legal reasons, they needed to have controls over this, and they also needed to make sure this could scale. And they selected us because our inline network-based approach really worked well for them and is now in place. One of Europe's largest cloud and IT services providers also selected CryptoAuditor to monitor and enforce policy and control to 30,000 plus hosts on their environment. Now they're in the process of deploying this, but they wanted to ensure that internal and external employees were not doing something inappropriate or against policy, and they also wanted to defend against external like spy agencies and things like that, as well as advanced persistent threats. So with that, I'm going to hand this off to Jimmy Mills, and I'll unmute him here and hand the controls over to Jimmy so that he can proceed with a demo of our Crypto Auditor solution, our Advanced Privileged Identity Management solution.
Okay. I should have control now, and I should be showing my screen. I just want to make sure everybody can hear me. Can you hear me at least, Jason?
Hang on one second.
Okay.
Yep, there we go. I can hear you and I can see you.
Okay, excellent. All right. I'll keep the demo pretty brief. I'll just kind of give the pretty much the main bullet points of the power of Crypto Auditor and how it can monitor the sessions and even basically disconnect sessions on the fly if a certain policy violation comes into play. Right now, you're seeing the just the home page of the Crypto Auditor web UI. Right now, we can see that there is one open connection, SSH connection, that's currently going through basically through the environment right now. Just to, I guess, give a brief explanation of my environment, I have this running within a VirtualBox environment, and so it's all running on my laptop, which I guess can speak a little bit to the simplicity of the solution and how you can put it practically anywhere. It's running on a virtual, and so typically with the implementations, depending on where you want to set the hounds themselves, would really depend on what kind of environment, what you're wanting to monitor. So you have 3 different modes for the hounds. You would have a basically bastion mode, which would work very similar to a jump box. You'd have a bridge, and you would have a router. In this case, I'm running Crypto Auditor as the hound as a router, so I'm just monitoring all the traffic going from my workstation to the virtual environment. So we'll go into trails and logs where we can see all the activity that's been going on within my virtual environment over the actually past few months. Looks like my laptop is getting a little bit maxed out, so hopefully this will come up here pretty briefly. One thing about the connections, so with Crypto Auditor, it is going to capture all the sessions, so it can do a video replay. You can even store the sessions in a text format or review them in a text format. In this scenario, actually with my environment, I have it interconnected with a DLP, so I'm basically allowing DLP to make a lot of the decisions on what connections should be allowed and what shouldn't be allowed. I've really got one simple rule set up, and right now it's just monitoring for 2 keywords, top secret, in conjunction together. For some reason, my environment's really slow. Let's go ahead and set up a SFTP connection. So I'll just at least get things moving. I'll connect to one of the servers in my environment, and I'll just go and connect as root. So right now, with the SFTP sessions, I don't have anything extremely restrictive in place. I'll come in here, go into my demo directory. I've got a test1 file that I'm going to copy over. That file actually contains the contents of top secret. I've dropped it on the server itself. I can log into that server and view it. And at the very same time, when I come in and view the sessions through Crypto Auditor, I can actually come back and actually view the file that was transferred. So if somebody is sending traffic externally to your environment and you feel that maybe a file has been compromised and data has been sent out that shouldn't have, you can actually come into Crypto Auditor and view the contents of that file. So here we see the test1.txt file was transferred out, and if I wanted to download that and open it up, and we actually, in this case, it was just the this is a test. So, but within Crypto Auditor, if there's any feelings of data being sent out that you think is being compromised, you can come back in and actually the administrator can come back in and view the actual contents of those files. I'm going to go into the policies now, and we're going to add some additional restrictions to the DLP rule that I have out there. Right now, I'm not actually blocking the SFTP transmissions if they're containing anything that DLP would pick up on. So I'm going to go ahead and modify that rule, and I'm going to make it a little bit more restrictive. So we're going to save it, and even though we're saving it through the web UI, it still would have to go through an approval process. So right now, it's still showing as pending changes, and of course, as you get into a little more role-based access, you can have different users that can come in and create the rules or modify the rules, and another group that would actually come in and review them and then approve them. And it tells you exactly what change has been made. So I'm going to go ahead and apply it. And now if I come back in and I'm going to actually do the test2 file in this scenario. So I'm going to reconnect. Right. I think I still have my old connection still open. Let me go and close both these so I can get rid of the old broker. And let me get a new session open. All right. And this time we're going to copy a test2 file. And let me actually show you the contents of that test2 file. And this one actually contains the words top secret. And with that, I already have that set up in my DLP to block anything with top secret. So in this scenario, obviously, if your DLP is set up to block any transfers of credit card data, then it would capture this transfer. So right now, you see where my connection was lost. Basically, it determined the contents of that file had information that should not be transferred out. So it basically disconnected the whole session at this point. And we can even go in and we can view the, go back into the trails and logs and even view it in the system events that the content inspection, that basically the connection should be closed, that it found a violation. So that's ultimately just how we tie in with DLP. And so the one thing to keep in mind, all we're really doing is, in this scenario, is we're just decrypting the traffic. DLP does a great job. It's there to basically prevent the leakage of your data. And so instead of completely reinventing the wheel and trying to do IDS and DLP, we're creating a solution that can basically work well with those other solutions. So one other thing I guess would be interesting to keep in mind is we can go back, and if you feel that someone's been modifying a file or accessing data that they shouldn't be accessing, for example, we'll just do a quick search on Etsy password. We can go through and we can review all the sessions in the past where anybody's gone through and made either viewed or made any modifications to Etsy password. If we click on a session, when we view the session, we can actually see all the different timestamps of every time Etsy password was either viewed or modified. And so with the video replay, whichever one you click on, you would go to that same exact spot and it would go back and replay the session of exactly what it is that you're looking for at that point. You can also download any of these sessions as text. So if you wanted to come back and review this. And the other thing to keep in mind is all this, especially with the text sessions, all this can be stored within basically redirected to ArcSight, Splunk, any other solutions out there where you're archiving the data or you're doing any kind of detections. So with this session, I can come back and I can view the session and have it in a text format where I can review every action that the user was performing from that session. At this point, I'll keep that this is a pretty brief overview of the power and capabilities of CryptoAuditor. I guess I'll go ahead and conclude this as the for the demo. If you guys have any, I guess at this time, if you have any specific questions about the product, definitely let me know. Can we open this up for anybody that has questions?
Yeah, we can use the Q&A
Okay.
chat function. If anyone wants to ask a question there.
Okay. Yeah, basically come through the chat.
Yep. So just in general, Jimmy, this kind of advanced approach to privileged identity management, you're working out in the field a lot. What are you seeing? Are you seeing this as being a major issue where folks are trying to capture this additional amount of data and also do so in an inline approach versus the gateway?
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. Of course, my history is I came from a very large retailer, and so the things with the data, the majority of times, I mean, we even had a situation where I believe it was a admin, it was another country, but they had a privileged account, and they actually were, I can't remember if they were fired or they quit, but with that account, I don't know if the account wasn't properly cleaned out at the time, but they also had a key that they had deployed within, it was actually a store basically in Canada, and they were basically able to go into the store, then basically backtrack from the store right back into the main infrastructure at the home office. So so definitely the privileged accesses, it's a hot item, and of course with SSH, with SSH being encrypted and using keys and all the accesses that we've kind of been pushing, and really SSH has kind of been one of those big pushes, I would say, probably since what, about mid-2000, after the whole PCI SOX governance standards really started kind of becoming, you know, a hot item, and so everybody's really started pushing all these encrypted methods and channels, and now the problem is can we monitor all those encrypted methods and channels, and can we control them? And so I think we didn't show it today, but UKM is definitely one of those hot items to go out and discover keys. And in this scenario, we can actually go back and we can review sessions that we think may have, someone may have basically used an SSH session or SFTP to transfer important data, classified data basically outside of the environment. And with this tool, you could go back and review that, and you could see what, you know, like I just showed with the SFTP file, you could actually see what was stolen at that point as well.
And really, because of the lack of access controls in these encrypted networks, that's making it even more important to have the monitoring, because you don't know who has access to what, and where those authentication keys are in many cases, and two, if you're not monitoring that and it's pushing this really critical data and providing access to these other servers and information assets, that's a really great spot for a malicious insider or hacker to go. Do you agree?
Right, yeah, because the machine-to-machine connections, especially because you may have a root-to-root or Oracle-to-Oracle or some form of privileged account moving the data, and so you can't really trace it back to the actual individual.
Yeah.
And depending on, you may have to go back several hops to do that, but yeah, it makes it very interesting on how if you can compromise, you know, use a key to compromise one privileged account, then you could, in some environments, you could almost go anywhere.
And as a guy who's worked in the data center in the field, as a practitioner, what are some of the challenges that you've faced with the gateway approach, or sort of a conventional approach to privileged identity management from a scalability standpoint?
Yeah, I mean,
is it challenging for organizations to kind of, you know, our approach is inline, so you kind of have one inline deployment. and you can manage everything centrally from there without really the end user even knowing. Is the change in workflow processes that occurs at the gateway or the requirements to manage all of these different endpoints, does that create a barrier to sort of the conventional solutions that are out there?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. There was other solutions that we had in house that we would have a lot of auditing tools in place, but just like anything, I mean, especially when those solutions and you have something running on an endpoint specifically, right? So you have, let's say you have 20,000 servers, so that means now you have 20,000 endpoints that you're trying to control and you're trying to maintain. But at the same time, if you have an administrator themselves that are the ones still on the data, they could literally go out to the one host, make the modification to allow them to do whatever it is that they're trying to do, whatever violation, and they can make the modification on the one host to give themselves the ability to do something, and then then at that point whoever the incident response team is, they would probably never detect it and never even know.
Yeah, which is always a huge risk,
right,
for the organization as well.
Yeah, and there's always a lot of good endpoint tools out there, but endpoint tools, just like anything else, can be compromised.
Yeah.
And with having us being in line and the data being even maybe redirected to a SIEM of some sort, real time, then that limits that capability of anybody being able to go back and cover their tracks.
Yeah, I think that proactive component of that is something that's been missing inside of the PIM space for quite some time. And that's been a problem in security overall. We're getting better at this in security. I think the CryptWater is an example of that, moving to the advanced approach. But a lot of security solutions did a great job of logging things and saying, well, maybe I've been hacked, but sometimes you don't find that out until there's been some organization or financial damage done to the organization, to the company.
Well, and sometimes the environment I came from, we had basically a hardening solution in place on our Unix servers, but anybody with root access could technically go in and disable it, and then do whatever so even if it was only for 30 seconds to do what they need to do, you may have an alert in place to monitor for that process, whether it's running or not, but you can't have it running. You can't have the monitor checking every second, so it's going to be probably checking maybe every 10 minutes, maybe every hour, whatever the script is at that point. But if someone wanted to do anything that they didn't want anybody to know about, they just disable it for for the 30 seconds to a minute to 10 minutes, whatever the case might be.
Yep, do their thing and then get out.
Yep.
Excellent. Well, I don't see any more questions on here. We're about at 2:45, so a little over, but hey, it's been good. If anybody has any questions, feel free to email me at jason.thompson@ssh.com or to the generic sales@ssh.com email address. We'll get that as well. Any questions about the Forrester report or crypto auditor or universal SSH Key Manager or encryption solutions? And Jimmy, thanks a lot again today for the demo. It's really great to see and get a hands-on feel for the product.
No problem. Thanks, Jason.
All right. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.